रुचिता 10x
Yeah, hi guys. Just a sec. Give it a couple of minutes and we will start the session. And today also would be a demo session. And first of all, can you guys hear me? Let me know in the chat. Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. So let me know what, like, did you guys downloaded that 10 GB of resource files like ISO, VMware Workstation and all? Actually, okay, the first 3 days would be the demo. Like, of course, like we will be installing stuff today. So like you will be installing the VM, of course. Yeah. So please download those 10 GB of file today. So yeah, Musa, like it will be sent in the chat. 1 second. Actually, so kindly join this group. Okay, today also let me paste it in the chat. Yeah, so this is that. And yeah, this is the folder and the resources files. So all these files are around 10 gigs. So you must download this in order to proceed further. Like we'll be seeing how to install this in AWS, but what about 101-2? Okay. Not sure what you're talking about, Bandipa. Just a sec. So like, yeah, these are all the first sessions resources. Like this is the ISO, so you must download this and the VMware Workstation software. So yeah, yeah, Helia. So we can install on AWS. I'll be showing it on like how to install it on AWS tomorrow, but today we'll be seeing it on VMware. And you must install, and it is a full version. Like we even have a license key. Okay. Can you send the VMware files WhatsApp group as well, please? Actually, it is been shared. Today also we will be sharing, Leela. So no problem on that. So yeah, let's start the session for the day. And please let me remind again, like do join this WhatsApp group for the any updates on the course. Okay, so and resources all will be shared today as well. So today demo session would be like a straightforward one. Like today the agenda is like what is the booting procedure, and actually it is kind of important to know why, because you will be attending a question. 1 second, let me share my full screen so that you can see that screen. Yeah. So let me open the question paper. So like you would just a second. Yeah. So in order to attend this root password break question, right? So the question 14, or in general, you must know how the booting procedure works. So yeah, so today we'll be seeing that quickly, and trust me, like it is a theory part. So this would be the last theory part for the whole sessions actually. So after this, we'll be fully on practicals. So yeah, so there is around 6 stages, and the first one is BIOS, and I will be showing you practically also what is BIOS and why it is needed actually. It is fast. Let me just check this as well. Okay, Victor. So we'll be posting that today. Okay. So the links will be posted today, the resources, but try to download it by tomorrow if possible, like this one. And tomorrow we'll be seeing like how to install it on any cloud service provider like AWS, Azure, or let's say like GCP as well. So all the cloud providers, the only the naming convention is a bit different, but the procedure would be same. So we'll be seeing that tomorrow, but today we'll be seeing how to install it on Windows laptop as well as about the booting procedure. Okay, screen is not visible. Okay, actually I'm not showing anything on the screen by the way. So can you see the screen now, Avinash? Okay, so let's quickly start this booting procedure. So it is pretty straightforward. So like what is BIOS? BIOS is like a basic input output system. So BIOS is kind of very important one. Why? Because BIOS is like what and all you're inserting to this like a hard disk. Let's say if you're building a new system or a laptop, the first thing that boots would be the BIOS. So let me show you what is BIOS. Let me reboot this so that you can see. Yeah. Okay, that screen went pretty fast. Just a sec. Reboot this as well. Anyhow, like you will be seeing like even today you can go and check that. So BIOS is like the first thing that boots. So this is the BIOS screen actually. So not this. So enter setup. VM. Let it boot for a second. So yeah, like any hard disk and the RAM and the system time, very important. The system time all can be set in the BIOS, and the boot orders. Like let's say you're plugging in ISO image or any bootable disk, it should be in the first thing, right? Like the remote removable disk. So that only like that boot order only will be followed throughout the system, and yeah. So those and all will be there in the BIOS section. Let's see. Okay, let me reboot this. One sec. It goes pretty fast. Actually, we can change this timer, but I'm not sure why. Uh, yes, just okay. So we'll be showing an image of that, but yeah. So yeah, like after the BIOS, the first thing BIOS loads is like, let's say, let me open the paint. Okay, so this is the first stage called as BIOS. Okay, so after this, pretty much what it checks is like for in order the BIOS to be running fine, first thing it does the process called as post. Power on self test. Okay, so power on self test. So means yeah. So what it does is like this power on self test is like it will check, okay, like it will turn on all the devices connected to the machine or the server. So let's say it will turn on the NIC card or the like the whether the power supply is correct exactly flowing throughout the system. So first thing it will do that. After this, the process is like the next thing it will try to boot is the bootable hard disk or the ISO. So the like it will be in the boot order. Okay, so yeah, let's do that. So the next thing it will look for is think like MBR. So what is the MBR is master boot record. So what that means is like let's take another diagram. So let's say this is your hard disk and inside there will be a disk plates. Okay, so each disk plate will have a something called a sectors. So there it depends on the size, but let's do not want to go too deep into that. But let's say this is the first sector. Okay, so the first sector will be the one it boots. So yeah, so this is the MBR, and it will be very small in size, like yeah, some KBs like around 8 to 10 KB only it would be in some machines, mostly in Linux. So yeah, it will look for the MBR, and this MBR will holds the data for the Grub. So Grub menu. So next thing is Grub. So what is Grub is the screen. I will be showing all these steps in the screen as well, but let me explain this right away so that we will be doing that. So Grub is the one we will be seeing that Rel 8.4 and Rel 8.4 rescue mode. So I'm telling in the context of Linux, and if you have a Windows server also, it will be showing here. So Windows 10, it is kind of like a dual boot. Or if you have more than this ISO also, it can show. Let's say you're having Windows 7, it will be showing what and all the ISOs or the bootable system you are having in your server or your system. Okay, so if you want to choose any one, it will be proceeding further that booting procedure. Like in order for this to be working, you must boot to that, like boot to that, right? So that is what. So after this, there is a process called as this is Grub. So trust me, guys, like this is a pure theory part, but if you must know this, okay? So that is the reason. After this, we'll be fully seeing the practicals, but today we will be installing the VMware and we'll be seeing how to install this ISO so that today the work for you guys to be like, please download this resources and do whatever we are doing today, okay? Like just install the ISO. So let me take this. So yeah, kernel and init. Before that, so this is the Grub full form, Grand Unified Bootloader. So in like mostly Grub is a screen which is a must. Why? Because you must know which one you need to boot, right? So even the Grub configuration will be we will be seeing that as well later. So yeah, it displays a splash screen, but in Windows you can see like which Windows you want to go. If you have more than one Windows system or more than one bootable Windows in your hard disk, same disk, you can see that. Let's say you're having more than one Windows installed in the same partition. Okay, so it will be asking you to asking you while you're booting your system, like which one you want to go, like Windows 8 or 11, like that. So that's what. That is the screen called as Grub splash screen. Okay. So yeah, after this there is a kernel. So kernel is kind of very important. Why? Because kernel is like it holds all the uh, hardware. Let me take a Windows example. So it will be the one which will be providing the CPU, memory, and what are all the informations needed for that. Let's say the CPU, there is one thing called a CPU instruction set. Okay, so CPU instruction set, memory, and how many hard disks are connected to that, and all the all this. There is one thing called as drivers. Okay, so each thing must need a driver to be working. So let's say internet, for the ethernet to be working fine, it must have a driver, right? So those and all will be loaded in the kernel one. So let me take a Windows example so that you can understand kind easily. So LILO, okay, so LILO means last in last out. Last in last out. So there is one concept called as first in first out and last in last out. That is not much needed. So yeah, if needed I will tell you tomorrow, but the thing is that actually it doesn't need, like, the latest Linux OSs won't follow this last in last out actually. So yeah, so these are all the drivers, how to check the version of Linux in VM. I will be seeing that. Yeah. So these are all the drivers and the hardwares related. Okay, so all this will be loaded in the kernel, like the kernel process. Okay, so these many will be there. And if this is, let's say this hard disk is, or this driver is not loaded, this hard disk won't be booting for sure. And you can right away come to this device manager and you can check. There might be a exclamation mark near to that. It means there is an issue with the driver. So similar way in Linux, the kernel is like a very important one. And let's say the kernel executes. So sbin. So what is sbin and all we'll be seeing later. Like it is a binary files, and the init process. Next thing is init process. And yeah, so these are all this is the full form of PID is process ID. Okay, and the root process ID is always one. So we'll be looking that also in the practicals. So yeah, so most these are straightforward. I'll be sharing this doc, so don't worry on that. So the main takeaway here is the kernel is the one responsible for preloading all the drivers required for the hardware to communicate with the software. Okay, so if something is not working here or in the hardware level, of course it won't work. So you need to troubleshoot or see why it is not working. So that is what I'm just giving a Windows example. Why? Because it is, you can right away see that. So the next stage is init. So this is kernel. So init RD is init RAM disk. Okay, so we'll be seeing that actually while booting. So just hold on for that. Okay, so what init process does is, like, init is kind of like a, after the system boots, which mode you want to go. So like there are several like 6 modes. Okay, so which one you want to go after the kernel boots? So let's say your hard disk or every metrics or all the hardware components are like powered on, and the drivers are working fine. After all this, you must know, like the system must know which way of like which way it need to be booted, or it need to be starting the server. Okay, so there are 6 ways. Okay, and Windows also you have that. Ah, actually, okay. Yeah. So this is what the same thing. Like if you want to, uh, just a sec. Yeah. So this is the same thing as this one. So if you want no GUI boot, that is okay. Let me explain in the Linux way. But this is both are kind of similar. Like advanced boot option it is. So if you want to boot with network, without network, all this can be customized here. And if you can see, there is a timeout value as well. If you want to give a timeout like 10 seconds to choose, so you can do that as well in Windows perspective, but let's take in Linux perspective here. So init 0 is halt. Init halt in the sense shutdown. Okay, so if you want to shut down the server, init 0. So init one mostly we won't use. If there is any issue on the server, we will be using init one. Like single user mode. Simply said, single user mode means only one user can use the system at present. Like mostly this scenario works for Windows Server. So Windows Server will allow only one user at a time. Okay, so if let's say I'm connecting remotely to a server, and right away there is another person B is also connecting to the same server, my session will be disconnected. Okay, so that is what single user mode is. Only one active session is allowed. And this init 2 is multi-user mode, and mostly Linux must have a multi-user mode. Like it is a multi-user operating system, so it allows that. But in init 2, it won't be connected to the internet. So that is the issue. Like the internet won't work without network. It will be init 2. So init 3 and init 5 is the default one, and we'll be seeing that. So init 3 is like most common one. Like mostly we'll be using init 3 only, and by default it will be init 3 most probably in your servers. Okay, if you are not using GUI. So init 4 it is not used actually. So it was used, but it is depreciated. Okay, so init 5 is X11. So what is X11 is your GUI mode. So what is GUI means? GUI full form is graphical. I guess most people might know this, but let's say you might not, some people might not know, so just bear with me if you not, if you know this already. So GUI and CLI, command line interface. So what is interface in this context is like the mode of communication. So if you want to communicate to the server in GUI, you have a cursor and a keyboard. Okay, so the input one. So in CLI, you have only the cursor won't be there. So the only way of communication is keyboard. If you want to type any commands or any operation you want to do on the server, only through the commands you can be performing that. Okay, so that is that. And yeah, so X11 is a GUI one. So X11, yes, that one. So yeah. So why I'm telling all this is like it is all this comes under init process. Okay, so after init, and it is a default one. So you by default there will be a init process in the server, and mostly it will be 3 or 5. And the init 6, okay, init 6 is the reboot one. So if you want to restart your server, mostly in work environment we'll be using init 6 rather than hard reboot. So I'll be going forward, I'll be telling what is hard reboot and soft reboot, or gracefully reboot. Okay, so I'll be letting you know on that. So yeah, typically you would set the default run level as 3 or 5. So yeah, so after that run level is, we were having a step called as run level only. So it will be it. So what this does is like what and all program to be executed at first. The default programs. Let me give again a Windows example. Let's say you're having, so these many startups items should be starting at the system while system boots, right? So all this will be in the run level 0 or any run levels. So each run level will be based on the init one. So if you're having run level 3 or the init 3, so it will be directly proportional to this run level 3. So whatever you are giving here, or whatever process is typed or initiated here, so the init, the both are kind of similar. Okay, so that is what. And by default, again, like run level 3 and 5 will be used. And if you are having your own process, let's say you're building a software and it should be starting, it should be in the startup process, so you must go here and edit that. Okay, so yeah, that is what it is. Interface, yeah. Okay, I made a typo, is it? Okay, so yeah, that this is what we are going to do today actually as of now. So we are going to install Vmware Workstation, and so again let me tell you, these resources are kind of very important as of now. So please download these resources. Today these links will be provided again. So let me paste it again in the chat as well. So please do download all this 10 gig file and keep it handy. So this question paper and the dumps answer also, please keep it handy, so that going forward we will be referencing those, and we will be like I will be providing you the how to approach each questions. Okay, so please do download all these files in this resources, and whatever we'll be sharing in the class or the sessions will be shared in this resources section. Okay, so yeah, so now we'll be seeing how to install this ISO in this VMware Workstation, but before that we'll be seeing how to install the VMware Workstation. Okay, so in order, since I already have a VMware Workstation in my system, I don't want to uninstall and reinstall again. So since I have a lot of VMs, so instead of that, I booted a Windows 10. Actually, it is a Windows 11 ISO. So it is a kind of OS inside a OS. So yeah. So before all this, you must enable one thing in your BIOS. Okay. So what that is like virtualization should be enabled. I'm not sure whether you can see that. Which one is better, VMware? I would suggest VMware Workstation is far better than VirtualBox, because there would be kind of first thing is VirtualBox is a freeware, okay? And as of now, in resources, you even have the key for VMware Workstation Pro. Means like it is kind of like a full version and it is for lifetime. So better to use that, I would suggest. How much configuration? Okay, that is a good question, Shailesh. So, like if you have at least 4 GB of memory, like 4 of RAM is more than fun. Mine is fully running on 5 because it's only 8 GB, right? So it is on par with everything. Why? Because I'm running 2 VMs at a time. So still can handle, but there will be a lag for sure. Okay, so just a sec. Can you repeat, please? Okay. So the config it's okay, making is it okay? Can you hear me now? Okay, so just a sec. Let me just can you confirm whether you can hear me now? Due to this actually, oh, still begging. Okay, actually we just to install the robotic sounder. Just a sec. So this is how you will install it actually. Okay, now it's fine. So the CPU, like there is literally 0 RAM for me, so that is the issue. Same issue. Okay. Yeah, it would be the issue until this VM is turned off. Just bear with me, okay? You can see the recordings if needed. So just a sec. I'll be just showing how to install this. I accept. Just a sec. This should be installed. Why? Because I just tried to change the mic. Still, that might be an issue. Until this VM is turned off, there would be an issue. So for sure, because it is consuming literally my whole memory. Is 80%. So, fine. Okay. So this is how you will install waste. Have your this one key. Just come here and don't enter like right away. You don't skip this step, okay? Please don't skip this. So enter the license and you can. So you're done. You can open the Vmware Workstation. And this would be the same like mine. Not sure same with just turn this Windows 10 off. So this is how you will install actually. Let me shut down this VM so that you guys can hear me. Yeah, I'll be sending the recording for sure. Yeah, now the VM. Yeah, please tell me where to put the key. Okay, Sailesh, can you hear me now? Let me know. Sorry for making you okay. So why there was an issue? Because the RAM and the system, there was a throttle, okay? Since the Windows server must or Windows system must have 4 gigs of RAM. So that is the issue. Like 2 gigs only, since I have a less memory, so the system throttled. So that's the reason there was no audio. I'll be providing those steps as well, no problem. So people who are still don't know how to install this VMware Workstation, I'll be providing that. But as of now, we'll be seeing how to install this, create a new virtual machine, okay? When your demo class end. Tomorrow, Sai. So tomorrow the demo class will be ending. And tomorrow itself, we'll be starting to see this question paper, like what and all the basics one. So tomorrow, the agenda for tomorrow would be like breaking the root password and configuring the yum repo. Okay, so that is what we should enable bridge control. Actually, NAT is more than enough, Shahid. Okay, so we can use the NAT translation. So we can use that. I'll be showing you how, like, which network settings and all you can use. Okay. So after installing the VMware Workstation, you will be getting this screen. So this is the splash screen of the VMware Workstation or the home screen. So just click create a new virtual machine and don't click typical, just click custom, click next. Let this be the default one, click next and install a disk image file ISO. Okay, so click this, browse and select your ISO image. It should be in one file. I'm just give a minute, Shahid. I'll be telling you how to do that. So you're way ahead actually. So I'll be telling you which network settings and all to be used. Okay. So yeah, this is the ISO image. So install disk image file. So select this. Don't select. I will install the operating system later. But you can, but still you can install now only. No problem on that. And you must provide the username for this. So let me give user one, password is 1234, Next, I can give a name for the VM. And please don't save it in your C drive. Why? Because people make mistake by saving it in your C colon or partition. Why? Because that is your Windows resides, right? So dark theme of the VMware. Actually, it is a system-wide dark theme, Shaib. I'll be sending a screenshot. Don't worry, Shaib. Okay. So I'll be sending that screenshot as soon as the class ends. Just give me 10 minutes after that. I'll be sending the screenshots of how this VMware works. Okay. So for both, how to install VMware as well as this ISO. Different version. Okay. So no problem. So please never install it on C colon or C partition C. Just install on any other. I have 4 partitions, so I will install it on partition F as logic labs, logic 1. Yeah, next. So this is the place where you just keep it default. So 1 core is more than enough for a Linux machine. And this is also depends on your memory. The recommended one will be selected by default. So you can give the recommended one. Supraja, I will be providing that WhatsApp link again, no problem. And yeah, so this is the kind of important one. So the network connection should be NAT. Okay. So I repeat, it should be NAT, like network address translation. Why? Because if you use, you can use bridged network as well, but NAT is correct one. I have taken, yeah, Shaib, it is more than enough actually. 2 gigs is more than enough for whatever we are doing. Okay. So fine. So NAT, just click next. So these and all, keep it as recommended. Create a new virtual disk, next, and 20 gigs. So that is fine. You can give that and split the last radio button. So split virtual disk into multiple files. So you can give that. And this is, again, you must click browse and select where you installed your VM. So you can better to select this folder. Why? Because uh, like, why? Let me tell you why. Because if you want to remove this disk or this VM, you have the path to that. Why? Because the VM is notorious enough to not remove your disk. Why? Because there will be a data loss, right? So that is the reason. Better to keep it organized and keep it in one folder. Your VM image as well as your disk file. So VMDK it is. Okay. Click next and customize hardware. So don't power on yet. Customize hardware, and you can remove this printer and all because it is not needed, to be frank. So you can remove sound card and printer. Okay. And even USB controllers is not needed, but still let it be, no problem. So anyhow, it will be checked in like this, power on this virtual machine after creation. Okay. Just click finish. So the VM will be powering it on after, right away after you done that. Instead of that, nowadays cloud is even everywhere, right? Instead of all this. Okay, so Sriram, actually true. What you are telling is like AWS, you have an upper hand that you can within 2 minutes you can power on your VM. But the downside is the network. Some people have a network issues, and in free tier you can, like, it will be kind of less. You're like you're sharing your hard this, right, or your hardware. Let's say, as our Shahid told, he's having 16 gigs of RAM, okay, or memory. So he can right away use 8 gigs also for this VM, no issues. But in like if you take AWS, you cannot with your free tier. You cannot. You must pay. If you are paying, you, that is fine. But that is what, like, I mostly for your lab practice, I personally use my own system because right away you can boot it and work. Okay, so we have to pay for hardware in, no, actually. So free tier is more than enough, but that is what, like, the options are limited. So here also you are sharing your own your own laptop or your system's uh, like hardware, right? Whereas in AWS you are using Amazon's hardware, like AWS or any cloud service provider. You will be using their, but even though that would be a bit faster, still I would suggest like my personal experience would be like sometimes it will accidentally, if you terminate also, your data will be lost, and from scratch you need to build it again. Okay, so if you have it in your own laptop, uh, you can actually, so it stays on forever, right? It is your data. So that is what I would suggest to use in your personal laptop. If for the people who don't have personal laptop and having only the enterprise one or the company provided laptops, so you have no other choice to use your AWS or any cloud service provider. Okay, so that is what I choose to select that 20 GB hardware in later. I check the term. Is it not necessary? Actually, I done that, Shaib. So don't worry, guys. I'll be sending a snippet of all the steps, whatever we done. So this would take some time. So yeah. In the meantime, we will review what and all questions we'll be seeing for. Are you seeing my questions? My questions are no, Musa. Can you repeat your question actually? Yeah, actually I can. Okay. Okay, sorry. Should I install in C drive? That is the okay. So you have no choice, Musa. You must install in your C drive. But my suggestion would be like not to install in C drive, but if that is the only partition you have, so you must install in that, no other way. What is the difference between bridge and NAT? Okay, so NAT in the sense it will be using the same. Okay, here itself you can see the definitions actually. So it uses the same IP as your host system. So there is one thing called as notepad as well. Same host IP. Okay, so the IP will be shared and there will be internet connectivity. Okay, whereas if you take the bridged one, the same interface itself will be connected to your VM. So host interface would be connected to the VM or guest. We should not install in C because we have our OS in that. Yeah, so why? Because this 20 GB, like you will have this data forever, right? Anyhow, you will be practicing for at least 3 to 4 months. So better to install in the some other drive. Just clear it, create a folder called VM and put all your disk or anything in that. Okay, so that is what my suggestion would be. Can we use AWS Linux system to practice? Of course, you can use Suguma. You can for sure use your AWS. No problem in that. How to configure DHCP server in Linux? Yeah, we'll be seeing that, Shaib. If time permits, we can do that tomorrow or day after. Okay, so yes, that is a good question. So tomorrow we do have class. So since yesterday we didn't have class, right? So tomorrow we have a session. So tomorrow would wrap up our demo sessions. Like tomorrow I'll be giving a brief explanation how to install in AWS, and we will be starting off the sessions like since we saw the booting procedure, right? So yeah, we'll be right away going and starting our exams like prep. Okay, so right away we'll be seeing this how to reset a root password if but most probably you won't forget. Of course, it is a root account, right? So in worst case scenario, if you forget, how would you recover that? So we'll be seeing this question. And if time permits, we'll be configuring the yum repo tomorrow. Sure, Shailesh, we'll be sending. Don't worry, okay? Because and please try to here user one is the root account. No, Bandipa. So user one is a user account. Root is a separate account. Okay, so that is what. Just a sec. Yeah. So user one is a use. Why? Because in recent times, this VMware is restricting that you must create a user one, like one user at least, in order for the server to be working fine. So that is the thing. Like, can you share recording videos? Okay. So what? Yeah, it will be shared, Rahul. So let me share this drive link once again. Please do save it or start downloading right away. So this one as well as to install this Red Hat VM for practice. Of course, we are installing it for practice session. Can you? Yeah, super. We'll be sharing that. And the people who didn't pay, kindly pay using that link, which will be shared in the group. So yeah. Rhcsa 1 edition 1 book. Shaib, actually, I will be providing you 2 books. Okay, you can refer that, but yeah, you can if you want to know everything in detail, I would suggest to read in book because it is around 700 pages actually. So that is what, if you want to know everything in detail, you can. But my suggestion would be hands-on experience is much more important in work culture. Okay, so better to use your like better to try it out, okay, rather than reading. But some of the theory part you must read, no other way. Can you please elaborate of Init RD? Okay, sure. Actually, tomorrow we'll be doing that. So Init RD. Why? Because Init RD tomorrow we'll be using it for what is that? Root password break. Okay, so we'll be seeing that in tomorrow's class, like what are all the mount points. And yeah, so LILO actually last in last out, like the last disk which is connected or the last bootable devices in the system will be the last out. Like simply said, if you're having a queue, the both are kind of similar, only first in first out and last in last out. Okay, so if you are having a queue of 4 devices, okay, so the first one would be, let's say, your hard disk, and second one is your pen drive. So like that. So last one, which is in this list, would be the last one to be executing or last one to be booting. And everything in this list would be booting. Okay, so keep that also in your mind. So everything in this list would be booting. So that is what. That is what, like, so it will follow the boot order. So this is called as boot order. Okay. Okay, so Grub and IL last in last out then. Okay, so that is a good question, Shailesh. So Grub is a how to say. Actually, I need to show you the Grub screen, but it is not allowing me. Just a sec. Let me try to show you. Yeah. So this is the Grub screen, Shailesh. Okay, if you can see, this is your OS. Means this is the Red Hat OS or the Linux one which you are going to work. And the next one is the rescue mode. What is rescue mode is, we'll be seeing that, but it is not like we will never use this. Why? Because if there is any boot image failure or something goes wrong, in that case only we'll be trying to do this. Or yeah, that is how. And let me type E. So tomorrow we'll be doing this, but let me tell today only the basic things. So if you see here, init RD you are asked, right? So init RD, what this is like, this is the image. Actually, someone asked, right? What is init RD? So this is the image, but there is no option for using US dollars. Stanley, can you ping? Okay. If you have the contact of Sunil, you can ping him, or kindly provide your email ID in the chat, like one-to-one message to me, okay? So that I will check with Sunil on that. So coming back to this one. So like this is the boot image. So there will be one thing called as boot image. Even in Windows, there is one thing called as boot image. Okay. So boot.img. So this is for Windows and init ramfs Linux. So if this there is a so you can even build your own boot image as well. But by default, the system will have its own boot image. Okay, so you need not worry on that. Still, it is a very important file. If this file is corrupted or if there is any space issue or something in this boot image, the system won't boot actually. So it will throw an error or it will be boot looping. Okay, so boot looping in the sense it will restart infinitely until and unless there is a fix for that. So that is what. Okay, it is boot in ini, right? Okay, yeah, sorry for that. In Windows, and here it is init ramfs. Actually, the version would change, so that is the reason. Underscore something. So the version would change here. So this is your kernel, the VM liners, right? VM liners. Something. So even that version would be differing from each iteration of this rel. Like 8 dot rel 7 would be a different version, or rel 9 would be different one. So this is here kernel, and this is very very important. So that is what like. So that is the thing this grub does. So what grub does is it will execute this 6 lines, or sorry, it will execute this 5 lines. That's it. Yeah, Stanley, got your mail. So saying it's somewhere. So yeah, I think we'll be coming to the same screen tomorrow for breaking the root password. But yeah, so this is what duration of the course. Yeah, Sriram. So again, a good question. So it depends. Like it would be 20 to 25 hours maximum. Like at least 20 days for sure. So why? Because so some of these would be kind of easy, but you must have a foundational level knowledge, right? So that is the reason. A user management and all will be very, very easy. So these questions and all will be easy. And it is kind of a vast topic. So we will be looking into that on in detail. Okay. So can we use any kind of VM version for this course? Above rel 8 would be fine. So rel 8 and above. So rel 9 is also fine. So but please don't have rel 7 and all. So some of the commands would be changing between rel 7 and rel 8. Okay, so that is what. And do please do download this question paper as well. Okay, virtual machine I'm asking, not traded. Okay, so VM, yeah, you can use anything, no problem on that. But anyhow, I provided you this installation package, right? So yeah, so like please do download. It is just 600 MB, so you can download this and use that rather than having an old one, because people do have so why I'm stressing that, because VMware Workstation 14, I think so. From 14 only, before that some features would be obsolete. Okay, so that is the reason I'm suggesting you to install this version again, because 16 is the latest one, and you even have a key here. So right away you just install the key so that you are good. VMware Pro before this course. Okay, of course, Shai, you're on the right track actually. Okay, it is also cracked. Great. Link for payment, please. Okay, so many people are asking for payment link. I will try to get that link tomorrow from Sunil and send it in the chat only. before that, yeah. So let me stop the screen sharing now. What we had discussed in previous sessions. So Ravi, actually previous session was just, okay, let me share the screen just for Ravi. So previous session was nothing like Ravi, like we just went through the syllabus, okay? So that is what. Like on the old one. Yeah. So we just saw what and all we are going to cover in this course. So that is what we saw in the previous session. So yeah. So tomorrow we are going to see how to interrupt the boot process and gain access to the system. So this is what, so it might be a random one, but it is kind of a very important question. So not question also, if you're stuck somewhere in your workplace, that is kind of very important to know how to interrupt the boot and go to the single user mode. That is what. Okay. This booting process is permanent when we start the system, or is it for the first time? Okay, booting process. Or in which context you are telling, Sailesh? I'm not getting it. Yeah, Ravi, you can get that. I will be providing that in the chat. Actually, Pawan, you need to practice for at least 2 months, whatever we are doing, and then you can start applying for the companies. Okay, so that is right. So for the first time, okay, let me rephrase your question. This booting process is permanent, but when we start the system, or it is for the first time. Okay. Okay. Oh, system boot process. Okay. So this stays the same for everything, Shailesh. Okay. So even for a Windows system, the BIOS, MBR, Grub, the same process follows. Okay. Why? Because that is how they done the system architecture. Okay. So it must follow a certain process in order to boot. So in Windows, you can see a graphical user interface. In Linux, you can even have a graphical user interface in Linux, but still, this is the process. That might answer your question. So because you tell MBR also comes, that is why. So MBR, okay, so that is I think you are mentioning this one. So Grub will be residing in this MBR. Okay, why MBR means? Actually, I will try to share you a video link. Okay, so that like you must see the inside of the hard disk. Okay, so in hard disk there is something called a sector and the IO head. Okay, so there will be one thing called as IO head, which means uh, it is kind of like a lever. Okay, so it will try to let me draw this. So it will try to see which is the first data. So we need not boot to a, let's say you're having a hard disk full of movies. Of course, it won't boot, right? So why? Because it won't have a grub and a kernel. Nothing will be there for it to be booting, right? So if you're having an image or a movie, a hard disk only with that, so of course the system won't boot and it will try to boot from the network. So that sometimes you might see a error screen actually. So that is what, like, it will be looking for that MBR, master boot record. So that is what, like, it is very small sector. Okay, so very small sector, but it is an important one. It will have all this info. Yeah. What is the difference between Rfcsa and Rhce? Okay, so Rhce is mostly like 80% automation actually, Ravi. So you will be automating stuff like using Ansible. Why? Because Ansible is acquired by Red Hat. So yeah, like mostly Ansible only. So if you don't know Ansible, it is kind of very hard to pass that or clear that exam. Okay, so that is what. So yeah, I guess I'll be sending that steps. Okay, so for people who are having hard time installing that, I'll be sending these steps. So don't worry on that. So give me some time. I'll be sending this within an hour. Okay, so but don't worry, I'll be sending that for today's session. So I think we are good for today's session. And tomorrow there is a session. Okay, please don't forget that. So let's see tomorrow, guys. Then.